Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink and Iron. My name's John. This channel is about inspiring game masters. My Fantasy Fusion series takes a single system from a book, game, show, or movie and adapts it into 5e. Today I'm going bigger. I'm going to show you how I built an entire campaign world out of a handful of inspirations. Highlander, the League of Legends cinematic Rise, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy XVI, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. But here's the real lesson I want you to take away today. World building isn't about taking one thing you like, dropping it into your game. It's about taking those inspirations and making them your own. I've broken this down into 3 pillars of design: the premise, the setting, and the tone. Everything in the campaign is built off these 3 things, so let's take them one at a time. The premise of a game is its fundamental core, the central conflict that drives the players forward towards the ending. It's the answer to one simple question: why does anyone in this world do anything? Now, this idea has been knocking around in my noggin a while.
There can be only one.
There can be only one!
For the uncultured swines out there, that's from Highlander. In that world, there are mortal, undying warriors who battle through the centuries with the aim of beheading each other and absorbing the other's mysterious energy that grants them their immortality. That's the idea I took, that when one powerful being defeats another, they absorb what made their rival powerful. Next up,
Prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Push through and
gets me pumped every time. Go and watch the full thing. It shows competitors climbing towards a single prize, each of them displaying their own unique and diverse powers, the fallen littering the path behind them, a brutal race to the top. On their own, each of these is a cool thing to put in your game. But let's fuse them together and you get the premise for my world. Power isn't earned, it's taken. The world is a climb, and the only way is through your rivals. Defeat them, claim their strength, and ascend towards the final prize: divinity. That fusion is the beating heart of the campaign, and it's literally why it's called the Ascension game. Okay, now we've got our premise, let's move on. So if the premise is why the world works, the setting is the world itself. The actual place all this happens, the ground under the player's feet. And I built mine by smashing together 2 very different things. First up, Elden Ring. If you've not played it, here's what you need. It's a game set in a beautiful and broken world that was once ruled by a god queen. Her divine power, the Elden Ring itself, was shattered, and now demigods tear each other apart, fighting over the fragments. A gorgeous ruin full of people chasing scraps of dead divinity. That broken, post-divine landscape is what I took. In my world, the gods went to war, and the gods died. When they fell, their divine essence was shattered and rained down onto the mortal world, and where it landed, it infused the ordinary people with fragments of that dead divinity. These people became known as shard bearers, not chosen heroes, not destined champions, just regular mortals who suddenly woke up carrying a piece of a dead god within them. So the world itself is the ruin that was left behind when the divine shattered. But a ruined world isn't enough. A setting needs a threat, something that makes the world feel like it's actively falling apart. And for that, I went to
残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ
Neon Genesis Evangelion. On the surface, it's a show about teenagers piloting robots, but what it's really about is dread. The enemies, the angels, are these incomprehensible beings that show up out of nowhere, ready to fuck shit up. You can't reason with them, you can't understand them, you can only survive them, and that at enormous cost. That feeling is what I took in my world, and it became the Monumentals. When the Pantheon shattered, it tore holes in reality, and something came through. Primordial beings that don't want to rule the world or conquer it, they want to unmake it. To drag everything back to the formless nothing that it began with. Humanity can't beat them. The best anyone can do is delay the end. Fuse those two together, the shattered divine ruin from Elden Ring and the existential horror unmaking it from Evangelion, and you get my setting. A dying world of the dead gods where every city is a fortress, because it has to be. And the end is always closing in. We're going to call this world Requiem. Right, that's our setting, and now we're on to the last pillar. Okay, for the tone, we're fusing Final Fantasy XVI and, you guessed it, Neon Genesis Evangelion again. Now, hang on, I just used NGE in my setting, and I'm using it here again. That's not me being lazy, that's the whole point. A great inspiration is deep enough to give you more than just one thing. Evangelion's monsters shape the setting, but Evangelion's feeling is a completely separate ingredient, and that's what shapes my tone. So, tone. Tone is how the campaign feels to sit at the table. Is it grim, goofy, heroic, terrifying? For this campaign, I wanted two feelings that pull in opposite directions, because that tension is what makes tone interesting. First, Final Fantasy XVI. If you haven't played it, picture the most over-the-top, operatic fantasy spectacle you can imagine. Giant summoned kaiju, the size of mountains, punching each other through the landscape while the orchestra goes absolutely bonkers. That's the energy. Final Fantasy XVI is bombast, spectacle. Those power fantasy moments where one character transforms and the whole battlefield changes, and it's just enormous. But here's the thing. Spectacle by itself is hollow. Big explosions don't mean anything if you don't care about the people caught up in them. And that's where we've returned to Evangelion, for the feeling. Because underneath those giant robot fights, Evangelion is really about the psychological toll, the dread, the cost, the fact that the kid in the cockpit with that world-ending power is also a frightened, struggling human being, slowly being crushed by the pressure. Fuse those together and you get the tone for the Ascension game. The fights are enormous, cinematic, operatic, the music's swelling, but they also mean something. They hurt. This is the campaign that goes huge on spectacle and then turns the camera inward into the heads of the people with all that power. Bombast on the surface, real human cost underneath. That's the feeling that I want to evoke at the table. Now watch how we lock these three pillars together. The setting gives you a dying world of shattered gods being devoured by horrors that cannot be defeated. The premise gives you only one way out. Climb to the top of the mountain, rise through the divine realms, and claim godhood to forge a new pantheon and save what's left. And the tone makes the climb matter. Operatic and enormous, but personal and costly with every single step. The mountain is called Mons Ultima, and the climb, the desperate, competitive, upward race to replace the dead gods before the world ends, this is the Ascension game. 3 pillars, 5 inspirations, 1 world. The world is set up, the mechanics are where it's going to live. Want to see how Shard Bearer's powers and battles actually work? I've got a new video coming out that explains those mechanics. And if you can't wait, I'm looking for players to play through the first ever Ascension game campaign right now on Start Playing. The link's in the description. And tell me, what inspirations do you want to fuse together? Comment below.